What if every thought you've ever had wasn't truly yours? What if the emotions you carry, your triggers, your desires, your fears, aren't spontaneous reactions, but precise results of a coded vibrational environment? This is not a metaphor, it's not mysticism, it's math, and it's been weaponized. Everything in your environment, from the hum of your refrigerator to the rhythm of your notifications, is operating on frequencies, measurable, programmable frequencies. But somewhere along the way, those frequencies stopped being natural. The world used to sound different. In ancient temples, sound was sacred. Chanting, gongs, mantras, these weren't just rituals. They were tools for aligning human consciousness with cosmic order. But over time, that knowledge was buried, silenced, and distorted, replaced by noise, white noise, pink noise, industrial hums, the constant drone of modern life. We've normalized it, but your cells haven't. Your nervous system is always listening, not just to words, but to tones. And it responds by adapting, by aligning, by obeying. The question is, who's conducting the signal? In 1939, the world's musical standard was changed. What had once been tuned to 432 Hz, the so-called natural frequency, was officially shifted to 440 Hz. The justification was convenience, standardization. But what if that minor shift wasn't minor at all? What if it fractured more than just tuning? What if it fractured perception itself? Multiple studies, largely ignored, have shown that certain frequencies influence brainwave patterns, cortisol levels, and even immune responses. In other words, your biology dances to the rhythm of the world around you, and when that rhythm is distorted, so are you. But this isn't just about music. It's bigger than that. It's about the frequency architecture that surrounds you 24/7, the background radiation of your life, the low-level sonic matrix you've never been taught to notice, but your body never forgot. Because here's the truth, you don't hear frequencies, you absorb them, and they're programming you more than any word ever could. You were born into a reality already encoded. From the hospital room buzz to the synthetic lullabies, your very first exposures were not just sensory, they were structural. They shaped your nervous system like wet cement. You didn't just learn language, you were tuned to a field. Every space you enter, every digital environment you immerse in, carries a frequency signature. Not all of them are accidental, not all of them are neutral, some are designed. Engineers already know this. Military research into sonic warfare has been public since the 1960s. Low-frequency sound, inaudible to the ear, can induce nausea, disorientation, even hallucinations. If sound can disturb you, it can also suppress you. And if it can suppress you, it can control you. But here's where it gets darker. You don't need full-blown weapons to achieve that. You only need a baseline distortion, a small shift away from natural harmony, repeated over time. The 440 Hz tuning isn't just a historical anecdote, it's a signal, a symbolic moment when humanity was pulled out of vibrational alignment, one collective beat at a time, and most people never even noticed. But ancient systems did. The Egyptians, the Tibetans, the Pythagoreans, they understood something we've forgotten. Frequency is form, not poetry, not philosophy, literally. Sand placed on a vibrating plate organizes itself into perfect geometry at specific frequencies. Change the tone and the pattern collapses. Now imagine your body, your organs, your cells responding the same way every second of the day. When the pattern is pure, the system is stable. When the signal is off, chaos leaks in. Modern stress, chronic fatigue, mental fog. These aren't just chemical imbalances, they're signal disturbances. Your body is wired for coherence, but trapped in a feedback loop of distortion. And it goes deeper. What you call emotion may actually be vibrational dissonance. What you call intuition may be resonance. You've been taught to ignore these cues, but your biology remembers. Because energy doesn't lie, frequency always reveals its source. And the question you should be asking isn't, is this true? It's, what's the cost of never noticing? Imagine this. Your mind is a radio, but the dial has been stuck on someone else's station for years. Every day, you're fed a carefully curated blend of frequencies. Artificial lighting, high-pitched alerts, overly compressed audio, dopamine-synced background scores. None of it is neutral. All of it is input. And input shapes identity. You think you're making conscious choices, but you're reacting to resonant commands. This is the real reason you feel disconnected. Why you can't meditate. Why silence feels uncomfortable. Because your internal signal has been jammed by a frequency field that was never yours to begin with. And the scariest part? You've normalized it. You've confused overstimulation with clarity. You've mistaken numbness for peace. And that's exactly how a frequency prison works. It doesn't need bars, just repetition. In ancient initiations, the first step was always vibrational alignment. Tuning the vessel before delivering knowledge, because truth can't land in distortion. But modern life skips that. You're bombarded with data, stories, hacks, ideologies, without ever clearing your signal. You're full of static, and static distorts truth. So what can you do? First, stop trying to fix yourself. There's nothing wrong with your system. You've just been tuned incorrectly, and tuning isn't psychological, it's vibrational. You must change the field, not the fight. Second, stop filling the void. Start listening to it. Silence isn't absence, it's calibration. But most of all, start asking who benefits from your dissonance. Because a distracted, overstimulated, misaligned human is easy to sell to, easy to influence, easy to shape. And that's why this knowledge was buried. This is not about being positive, it's about being sovereign. They don't fear your voice, they fear your frequency. If you're resonating with this truth, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell. The algorithm won't show you what it wants you to forget. Let's talk biology, not belief, not myth, just the nervous system, the body, and vibration. Every human cell is surrounded by a membrane that communicates through electromagnetic signaling. Your heart emits the strongest field of any organ. Your brain operates on brainwave frequencies. Your gut is packed with neurons responding to vibration. You are an instrument. The question is, who's tuning you? Now here's where it gets clinical. The Schumann resonance, the natural electromagnetic pulse of the Earth, beats at approximately 7.83 Hz. That same frequency is mirrored in the alpha state of the human brain, the state of calm alertness, creative flow, and deep learning. So when you're in sync with the planet, you're in sync with yourself. But the modern world rarely lets you get there. Electromagnetic pollution, blue light exposure, digital noise, industrial architecture, they all block that connection. Instead, they place you in a sympathetic state, stress, hyper-alertness, survival mode. Over time, this doesn't just fatigue your system, it reprograms your baseline. You're being nudged further and further from coherence. Now, combine that with frequency distortion in media, 440 Hz music, low-frequency hums in appliances, neuro-targeted audio in entertainment, and you're no longer just distracted. You're being shaped. This isn't theory. It's neurophysics. It's entrainment. Entrainment is the tendency of a weaker oscillating system to synchronize with a stronger one. It happens with metronomes. It happens with fireflies. And it happens with human consciousness. Put simply, your brain aligns to the most dominant frequency in your environment. If that frequency is artificial, low, erratic, or weaponized, your mind becomes its echo. And you wonder why clarity is hard to access. Ancient spaces, temples, pyramids, megalithic sites were built with materials and geometry that enhanced resonance, not blocked it. They weren't just buildings. They were vibrational tuning chambers. We've replaced those with concrete towers, Wi-Fi routers, and echo chambers of anxiety. You are not defective. You are detuned. But once you understand the mechanics, the trap starts to lose its grip. Because what can be distorted can also be recalibrated. Recalibration doesn't begin with action. It begins with silence. Silence is not emptiness. It's the original frequency, the primordial tone, the space where signal can re-emerge without distortion. That's why nearly every ancient wisdom tradition starts with breath, chant, or stillness. Not to quiet the mind, but to retune the body. You don't change your frequency by thinking different thoughts. You do it by changing your field. Let's be clear, this isn't about vibes or mood. It's about physics. Step into a forest. What do you feel? Step into a crowded subway. What changes? That's vibrational intelligence, and your system knows the difference instantly. Your nervous system is always scanning for harmony or interference. You've just been trained to ignore it. Reclamation starts with resensitization, relearning how to feel the difference between coherence and chaos, between forced stimulation and organic resonance. That means minimizing artificial signals, not eliminating everything, but becoming aware. Soundproofing your sleep space, using analog tools, spending time in naturally resonant environments. But most of all, it means creating intentional sound, not consuming, not reacting, creating. Your voice is not just for speech, it's a frequency tool. Mantra, tone, hum. They're ancient technologies for realigning your internal resonance. When you use your voice intentionally, you're not performing. You're broadcasting a countersignal. And here's the most important piece no one tells you. Your frequency is contagious. You don't just get entrained, you entrain others. The moment you begin stabilizing your field, the environment around you begins shifting. Conversations change, choices feel easier, patterns fall away. Not because you tried, but because your signal no longer supports distortion. That's the beginning of sovereignty. Not control, not perfection, just coherence. In a world where everyone's vibrating to someone else's frequency, coherence is rebellion. And the most revolutionary thing you can do is retune. But there's one more truth you need to hear. Because if frequency is programming reality, then who programmed the frequencies? And what are they really trying to create? You've been taught to measure life in thoughts, in choices, in stories. But beneath all of it, you are frequency. Not metaphorically, literally. Every moment your system broadcasts. Every cell, every breath, every glance emits a signal. And those signals are not private. They echo into your relationships, into your environment, into the collective. So ask yourself this: whose signal have you been carrying? That inner anxiety you normalize, was it ever truly yours? That fatigue you call modern life, is it your body breaking down or your field rejecting distortion? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people will live their whole lives out of tune. They will adjust to the distortion. They will build lives on top of static. They will medicate the symptoms. They will never question the source, but not you. Because if you're still here, it means part of you remembers what alignment feels like, remembers a life not ruled by noise, remembers that there's a signal underneath the system, and it's been calling you back. So, where do you go from here? You stop chasing clarity. You start removing interference. You begin listening, not just with your ears, but with your entire system. Not all frequencies speak in words. Some speak in tension. Some speak in silence, and some speak only once you've cleared space for them to arrive. That's your next step. That's your only step. Retune, reclaim, broadcast. Because the world doesn't need more noise, it needs resonance. And maybe, just maybe, your signal is the one that was missing all along. But now the question is, if they've gone this far to distort your frequency, what else have they altered without your consent? Let me know in the comments. What signals have you started to notice now that you're really listening? And if this video hit something real, you already know the next one's waiting.